In that office where everything seemed to run like a well-oiled machine, a small flaw was about to change the course of history for everyone involved. If you think big changes only happen through planning, formal announcements, and endless meetings, get ready. What you're about to hear is one of those stories that starts in silence, with an almost invisible gesture, but ends with a plot twist worthy of a movie. Stay until the end, because the transformation of a simple intern into CEO will show you that, many times, the power to change everything lies in a decision made when no one is watching. In his first few weeks as an intern, he noticed the tense atmosphere in the development team. Pressure came from all sides, deadlines were getting tighter, and at the center of it all was the company's chief technology officer, known for his arrogance and for never admitting mistakes. Whatever he said was law, and anyone who dared question his code was seen as an internal enemy. So when the intern found that critical flaw in the system, his natural instinct was to stay quiet. But what he did next? Well, that's where the story really begins. The flaw the intern found wasn't just any error. It was a poorly written line of code that, if not fixed in time, could cause millions in losses for the company. He spent hours reviewing, checking, and testing, afraid he was mistaken. He didn't want to be just another person who thought they had found something important. Once he was sure, he took a deep breath and did the unthinkable. He fixed the code. No fuss, no emails, no meetings. He just saved it, documented the change in silence, and went on with the rest of the day's tasks. The next morning, the servers that used to have frequent instability began running better than ever. Customer complaints dropped drastically, and the team's productivity soared like magic. No one understood what had happened. The boss, of course, took the credit for the sudden improvement, claiming he had been testing a new approach for weeks. The intern, on the other hand, kept to himself, watching everything with a calm and strategic gaze. The following days were a true spectacle of corporate hypocrisy. The boss was called into meetings with the board, received public praise, and even started acting even more arrogantly. The intern, instead of getting upset, continued working with even more focus. He knew that, sooner or later, the truth would come out. He just didn't imagine it would happen in such an impactful way. Over the next few weeks, the team faced a new challenge, developing a platform that would be the company's most ambitious project yet. The deadline was tight, the pressure increased daily, and the boss, as always, delegated the hardest parts to others while taking credit for the solutions. The intern, once again, stayed silent, but this time decided to go further. He began studying the entire system on his own, mapping flaws, creating solutions, and building a true technical arsenal. During this time, he began earning the quiet respect of some colleagues. Small tips he gave during meetings, improvement suggestions that, even if not officially accepted, ended up being implemented by pure coincidence. Gradually, his name started circulating in internal conversations. Always discreetly, always with a tone of quiet admiration. 3 months after that first fix, the company faced an unexpected crisis. The system suffered a catastrophic failure during a live demonstration for investors. It was a moment of general panic. Screens froze, graphs disappeared, and the virtual environment became unusable. The conference room turned into chaos. The boss, visibly nervous, tried to find an explanation, but it was clear he had no idea how to fix the problem. While everyone stared desperately at the monitors, the intern, sitting in the back of the room, opened his laptop and got to work. Within minutes, he analyzed the logs, identified the source of the error, and applied a correction patch that restored the system in record time. The investors who were about to abandon the project applauded the system's return as if it were a miracle. But the real miracle was there, behind a screen, in the hands of an intern no one usually noticed. The impact of that moment was so great that the company president demanded to know immediately who had saved the situation. The boss tried once again to take the credit, but was interrupted by one of the team's most senior developers, who made a point of pointing out the real hero, the intern. The silence following that revelation was almost tangible. All eyes turned to the young man, who remained seated, wearing a serene expression mixed with a slight smile, as if he had already expected this. The president asked him to stand and, in front of everyone, asked the question that would change his life. "What's your name, kid?" From that day on, everything changed. The intern was promoted to a technical leadership position, received a significant raise, and was included in the company's strategic meetings. The boss, on the other hand, began to be gradually removed from important decisions. The hallway. Conversations now revolved around the intelligence and talent of the new leader. Over time, the intern proved, day after day, that his technical knowledge wasn't a fluke. He redesigned systems, implemented new technologies, and delivered impressive results. The board's trust in him grew exponentially. Until, in an extraordinary assembly, the official announcement came. The former boss was being dismissed for poor management and incompetence. On the same day, to the surprise of many and the pride of some, the intern's name was announced as the company's new interim CEO. That news spread through the halls like wildfire. Employees who once saw him as just the quiet intern now greeted him with respect and admiration. In his first meeting as CEO, he started with a phrase that stayed in everyone's memory. "Sometimes, the greatest demonstration of leadership is the silence of those who work while others talk too much." From there, his story became an inspiration. Articles were written, lectures were given, and his name became associated with resilience, emotional intelligence, and true leadership. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you think you've seen it all, wait until you hear about the behind the scenes of this meteoric rise. What happened in the company's hallways, the secrets that came to light, and the decisions he had to make to stay on top, are things only the next chapters of this story will reveal. Stay with me until the end, because the best is yet to come. He was never the kind of person who liked to draw attention. While the other interns made a point of speaking loudly in meetings, laughing at the boss's jokes, and trying to impress with forced comments, he preferred silence. He always sat in the corner of the room, eyes fixed on the computer screen, with his headphones strategically positioned to avoid unnecessary interactions. But behind that discreet appearance, there was a mind working at high speed, observing, learning, and analyzing every detail of the surrounding environment. In the first few weeks, he noticed a worrying pattern. The chief technology officer had a behavior that mixed arrogance with disorganization. The code delivered by the team was full of flaws, deadlines were frequently missed, and when something went wrong, the blame was always placed on subordinates. The intern watched colleagues being publicly humiliated for mistakes that were, in fact, the direct responsibility of the boss himself. That raised a red flag inside him. It wasn't just a toxic environment. It was a minefield. One of those ordinary mornings, while reviewing a system module, he found a critical flaw. The kind of error that could compromise data from important clients and cause huge financial losses. The most logical thing would have been to inform the boss immediately, but he knew the response would, at the very least, be a scolding for getting involved where he wasn't called. So he took a deep breath and made a decision that would change everything. He fixed the error himself. At that moment, his heart raced. He knew he was taking a huge risk, but the clear conscience of having done the right thing gave him the strength to continue the day as if nothing had happened. When the boss noticed the sudden improvement in system stability, he rushed to the boardroom to sell the solution as his own idea. Compliments started pouring in. The management team's admiring glances turned to the boss, and the intern kept working in silence. Meanwhile, the boss's fame grew. He was invited to give internal lectures, received performance bonuses, and was even considered for a promotion. But the intern, unlike many others, didn't let the injustice blind him with anger. He knew the corporate game was full of traps and that the right moment to act was still to come. Time went on, and the intern continued to stand out, but always behind the scenes. He fixed small errors before they became crises, discreetly gave suggestions to colleagues, helped deliver complex projects, and above all, maintained a posture of someone who was there just to learn. The boss, on the other hand, kept accumulating credit that wasn't his. At a certain point, the company decided to invest in a new project, a platform that promised to revolutionize their market. The pressure increased. Meetings became more frequent, deadlines tighter, and tempers more strained. Once again, the intern took responsibility for much of the technical development. Even though his name never appeared in the project result presentations, the situation began to change definitively when the system, already in its final development stage, started showing serious failures during testing. The boss, as usual, looked for scapegoats. Emergency meetings were called, and the employees, scared, could barely argue. But the intern, he just analyzed the logs, reviewed the codes, and made silent notes. Then came the turning point. During a live demonstration for investors, the system crashed. The humiliation was public and instant. The board's eyes turned to the boss, who stammered, sweated, and didn't know what to say. At the back of the room, the intern opened his laptop and, within minutes, diagnosed the problem, wrote a temporary solution, and got the system back up and running. The reaction was immediate. One of the directors, impressed, wanted to know who had fixed the problem. For the first time, in front of everyone, the intern's name was mentioned with respect. From that moment on, he started being invited to strategic meetings. His opinion began to be heard, and things started to truly change. The boss desperately tried to regain control of the situation. He tried to discredit the intern, invent stories for the board, manipulate reports, but it was all in vain. The reputation the intern had been building in silence now spoke louder than any excuse. Other employees began to notice the difference. Projects that used to be delayed were now delivered on time. Technical solutions improved. Clients praised the new system stability, and the internal atmosphere started to change. All thanks to the tireless work of someone who, for months, had been underestimated by everyone. The board, paying attention to this transformation, started a discreet investigation into recent projects. They discovered that much of the solutions credited to the boss had, in fact, been implemented by the intern. Old reports, code commits, and change logs made it clear who was truly driving the company forward. On a Monday morning, the company president called an extraordinary meeting. All department leaders were present, including the chief technology officer and, of course, the intern. In the middle of the meeting, the president displayed a series of data that unmistakably showed the real person responsible for the company's recent success. The boss, with no way to deny it, was fired right then and there, in front of everyone. The decision was met with heavy silence, followed by looks of relief from the team. The intern, in turn, was promoted on the spot. But what no one expected was the announcement that came next. He would be named interim CEO until the company chose a new official leader. The news spread like wildfire through the halls. The intern, who, months before, was just another face among many, now occupied the most important office in the company. His story became the topic of every conversation circle, and many began to see him as an example of perseverance and competence. That same day, he gathered the entire development team. Sitting in the chair that, until a few hours earlier, belonged to the former boss, he gave a simple but direct speech. Here, merit is earned through work, and no one will be invisible anymore. His words were met with sincere and emotional applause, but his journey as CEO was just beginning. The challenges in the coming weeks would be even greater, demanding quick decisions, courage, and above all, the same strategic intelligence that had brought him this far. The intern, now a leader, knew his path was just starting. This chapter was only the beginning of an even greater story. In the first weeks after assuming the position of interim CEO, the former intern faced a wave of challenges. Expectations were enormous. The board wanted quick results, investors demanded answers, and employees, still stunned by the sudden change, looked at him with a mix of hope and skepticism. After all, how could someone so young, with so little time at the company, lead a corporation of that size? But unlike what many thought, he'd been preparing for that moment all along. Even without realizing it, his first decision was to reorganize the technology and innovation departments. He knew that many of the company's problems originated there, caused by poor management, lack of communication, and above all, the inflated egos of former leaders. He called meetings with each team, listened to employees at all hierarchical levels, and for the first time in years, the staff felt that someone genuinely wanted to hear what they had to say. Meanwhile, the former boss, now out of the company, began spreading rumors on professional social networks, trying to tarnish the new CEO's image. He claimed persecution, injustice, and even raised doubts about the technical competence of his replacement. But the promoted intern stayed focused. He knew the best response would be to deliver results that spoke for themselves. He also began reviewing old contracts and partnerships the company maintained. He discovered abusive clauses, poorly managed projects, and unnecessary expenses that had drained the company's resources for years. Within weeks, he renegotiated contracts, cut superfluous expenses, and optimized internal processes. The first financial improvements started appearing in the monthly reports. The atmosphere inside the company began to change. Previously unmotivated, employees started working with more dedication. Targets began being met ahead of schedule, and team morale soared like never before. For the first time in a long while, the once silent hallways were full of lively conversations about new ideas and projects. During this process, he also invested in staff training. He created an internal training program, inviting renowned professionals from the market for lectures and workshops. He encouraged a culture of feedback and open space for innovation in all departments. Now, any employee could suggest improvements, regardless of their position. But the biggest challenge was yet to come: regaining market trust. Many key clients were considering terminating contracts after the scandals involving the former boss. So the new CEO decided to act quickly. He organized a major event to present the company's new guidelines, inviting clients, partners, and the press. On presentation day, the auditorium was packed. He stepped onto the stage with the confidence of someone who knew every detail of the company's problems and solutions. The speech was direct, transparent, and bold. He owned up to past mistakes, presented the changes already implemented, and revealed future plans. When he finished, he received a standing ovation. The reaction was immediate. News outlets started circulating stories praising the young CEO's stance. Client confidence began to be restored, and soon, the company closed new contracts, expanding its client base. Investors who had previously been worried now saw him as a promising leader. Behind the scenes, he continued working with the same dedication as before. He arrived early, left late, attended every technical meeting, and made a point of keeping the team united. Instead of isolating himself in a luxurious office, he preferred to work alongside other employees, keeping his door open to anyone who wanted to talk. Despite the progress, he knew that the interim CEO position was temporary. The board still planned to open a formal selection process to choose a new leader, but he wasn't intimidated. On the contrary, he saw it as an opportunity to definitively prove that he deserved the position. He began preparing a medium and long-term strategic plan, with financial projections, expansion proposals, and new innovation goals. At the same time, he received offers from other companies interested in hiring him. Now that his name was circulating, in the market, but he declined all offers. He felt that his mission there was not yet complete. He wanted to see the company where he started as an intern reach the level of prominence it had always deserved. Meanwhile, his former intern colleagues looked at him with admiration. Many remembered how quiet and almost invisible he was during the first weeks of work. Now he was their leader. Instead of distancing himself, he made a point of giving opportunities to those who also showed effort and competence. In every new meeting with the directors, he presented solid results. Company's growth began to attract the attention of specialized magazines, which started publishing articles about the breakout CEO. He became an example of young, innovative leadership based on merit. Even with the intense routine, he made time to mentor younger employees. He knew how much good advice could make a difference in someone's career. Whenever he could, he discreetly told his story, making it clear that success was the result of hard work, focus, and resilience. The organizational culture shift was so deep that even clients began to notice. Many started praising the service, the quality of the products, and the speed in solving problems. Customer satisfaction hit record highs, and the company's market image was fully restored. In the midst of all this, an unexpected challenge arose. A major competitor launched an aggressive campaign to try to steal the company's main clients. The new CEO, with the same calm he had always shown, gathered his team and devised a quick and efficient strategy. He strengthened client relationships, offered customized solutions, and demonstrated the value of long-term partnerships. Within days, the competitor's attempt to lure clients failed. On the contrary, the company gained even more contracts as a response to the firm and transparent stance of the new CEO. The market understood that a new kind of leadership was now in place, unlike anything the company had seen before. By the end of that quarter, the company's profits exceeded all projections. The shareholders, surprised by the results, decided to expedite the decision about the permanent presidency. They called an extraordinary meeting to discuss the confirmation of the interim CEO. The tension was high. All eyes were on the boardroom. Rumors spread through the halls. Employees exchanged anxious messages, rooting for the intern-turned-leader. When the official announcement was made, the reaction was unanimous. He had been confirmed as the new CEO. The news quickly spread throughout the building. Words of support, hugs, and even a few tears marked that historic day. The silent intern from 3 months ago was now, officially, the man who would lead the company into the future. But he knew that despite the victory, the journey was just beginning. The coming months would demand even more dedication, emotional intelligence, and leadership ability. Even so, as he looked out the window of his new office, he smiled. Because deep down, he had always known he was ready for that challenge. The days following his official appointment as CEO were filled with intense work and strategic decisions. Now holding the position permanently in his hands, the new CEO knew the weight of responsibility would be even greater. The specialized press wanted interviews, shareholders demanded expansion plans, and the internal team expected new directives. But instead of feeling intimidated, he maintained the same focus and determination that had brought him this far. One of his first measures was to create an internal innovation council. He gathered the company's best professionals from different areas to brainstorm bold and disruptive solutions. The goal was simple: to transform the company into a market reference, not only in products, but also in organizational culture. He encouraged everyone to think outside the box and made it clear that no idea would be ignored. At the same time, he began strengthening ties with the oldest clients. He personally visited some of the main commercial partners, listened to their demands and concerns, and proposed customized improvements. This approach brought immediate results. Clients who were unsure about maintaining their contracts now reaffirmed their trust in the company. As the weeks passed, internal reports showed constant growth. Employee engagement was also evident. For the first time in years, internal satisfaction levels reached record highs. Many professionals who had previously resigned due to the old management began expressing interest in returning to the company. In the technology field, he led the implementation of new project management, internal communication, and data analysis tools. He automated processes, reduced task execution time, and improved delivery quality. The result was a more agile, motivated, and productive team. Not everything was smooth sailing. The former director, still resentful about his dismissal and the meteoric rise of the ex-intern, intensified his attacks on social media and even filed a lawsuit alleging unfair dismissal. Even so, the new CEO maintained an ethical stance. He gathered his legal team, presented all documents proving the former director's misconduct, and let justice take its course. Meanwhile, the marketing department, under his guidance, launched a new institutional campaign with the slogan, "Transformation that comes from within." The idea was to show the public that the company's change was not just administrative, but also cultural. The campaign was a success, achieving record engagement on social media. Internally, he continued holding monthly meetings with employees at all levels. In these gatherings, he made a point of listening to suggestions, answering questions, and sharing the company's results. This transparency further increased the respect everyone had for him, with shareholder confidence consolidated. The new CEO proposed an international expansion plan. After a detailed market study, he presented a project to open the company's first branch abroad. The proposal was unanimously approved. In less than 6 months, the new unit was already operating successfully. On the social front, he also implemented a corporate responsibility program. The company began supporting educational projects and offering scholarships to young people from underserved communities. This initiative not only improved the company's image, but also reinforced the values of inclusion and social responsibility he wanted to instill in the management. With each new achievement, employees felt more proud to be part of that story. Many began telling friends and family how the company had changed. Internal social networks were filled with emotional accounts from employees who had previously been demotivated but now found meaning in their work. Even with the exhausting routine, he maintained the habit of arriving early at the office and being the last to leave. He made a point of walking through departments, greeting employees, and closely monitoring ongoing projects. His presence was constant, inspiring, and respected by all. The financial market also began recognizing the company's new moment. The company's stock value rose significantly. Economic analysts started including the company in lists of the most promising businesses in the sector. In investor meetings, praise for the new management became frequent. With growing popularity, invitations began pouring in for him to speak at business events, universities, and even international leadership congresses. Whenever possible, he accepted the invitations, but always made sure to keep his primary focus on the company's internal management. One of the most symbolic moments came when the former director's office, vacant since his dismissal, was officially transformed into an open innovation room for internal employees. The new space was decorated with photos of employees and inspiring quotes, marking the definitive end of one era and the beginning of a new phase. During a year-end event, with all employees gathered, he stepped onto the stage to thank the team. He said that, more important than profits and financial results, was the pride in seeing how everyone had reinvented themselves. His words moved the audience. Many employees gave him a standing ovation, some with tears in their eyes. The press once again highlighted his story as an example of overcoming obstacles. Business websites published articles with titles like "From Intern to CEO, The Journey That Inspired the Market." On social media, the story went viral again. Many young professionals saw in him an example that effort, ethics, and competence could indeed change destinies. In the Human Resources Department, The recruitment process for new talent adopted the slogan, "Here, everyone has a chance to grow." This phrase was inspired by the CEO's own journey, and the internship program received a record number of applications the following year. During a breakfast meeting with the leadership team, he shared something few knew, that in his first months as an intern, he had considered quitting several times, mainly because of the former boss. But during that time, he learned the value of resilience and strategic patience. In a symbolic gesture, he decided to write an open letter to young professionals entering the job market. In the letter, he encouraged each one to do their best every day, even when no one was watching. He said that recognition might take time, but always comes to those who work with truth and dedication. As he walked through the company corridors, he still remembered how he felt in his first days there, insecure, shy, and full of doubts. Now he saw in the faces of new interns the same mix of anxiety and hope, and he made sure to smile at each of them as if silently saying, "I know exactly how you feel." Even with so many commitments, the new CEO never stopped learning. He attended courses, read books on management and leadership, and maintained a disciplined routine of professional development. He knew the journey was just beginning and that success would only continue if he remained humble and prepared. And so, with firm steps, decisive actions, and a keen eye on people's well-being, the former intern who once corrected his bosses' code in silence solidified his place not just as a leader, but as a symbol of transformation for an entire generation of professionals. As time went by, the story of that intern who once silently corrected his boss's code became more than just an internal anecdote at the company. It turned into a true corporate legend, told and retold during new employee orientation sessions, motivational talks, and even in business magazine articles. His name became synonymous with resilience, competence, and emotional intelligence. He not only reached the highest position in the company, but also left an indelible mark on the organizational culture. The financial results reflected the success of his management. Revenue numbers hit successive records. Investors smiled with satisfaction at every shareholders' meeting, and the market pointed to the company as one of the most inspiring case studies of the decade. Competitors, once indifferent, now watched every strategic move from that leadership that few had believed in at the beginning. Inside the company, the atmosphere had changed. Teams were more united, more creative, and above all, happier. The work environment, once heavy and filled with distrust, was now light, collaborative, and motivating. Productivity skyrocketed. Positive feedback became routine, and professionals began facing their daily challenges with more enthusiasm and a sense of purpose. At home, in his rare moments of rest, the now CEO reflected on everything he had experienced over the past few years. He thought of the nights when, as an intern, he stayed late solving problems that weren't officially his responsibility. He remembered the looks of superiority from the former boss, the silent injustices, and the loneliness he felt at times. But now it all made sense. Every hidden tear, every sigh of frustration, every sleepless night of study, everything had served to shape the leader he had become. Social media continued to amplify his story. Young professionals, inspired by his journey, wrote messages saying how much his example made them believe they too could achieve their dreams. He read each one with gratitude, responding when possible, always with words of encouragement. He didn't want his story to be seen as a fluke, but as proof that effort and character make a difference. The former director, meanwhile, was facing a very different moment. After losing the lawsuit in court, his reputation crumbled. No major company wanted to associate its image with someone with a history of moral harassment and unethical conduct. The one who once considered himself untouchable now had to deal with the consequences of his own actions. Amid this contrast of destinies, the new CEO remained true to the principles that had guided him so far. In every meeting, he made a point of reminding his team that respect, recognition, and empathy were non-negotiable values. He created internal policies for employee appreciation and implemented ongoing training on positive leadership. During an internal awards ceremony, he took the stage for a brief speech. He said that true leadership isn't born from the title we carry, but from the actions we take when no one is watching. He spoke about ethics, resilience, and the courage to do what's right, even when it's easier to stay silent. The entire room fell silent. Many were moved. Others, inspired, decided right then to give their best from that day forward. The HR department, recognizing the power of that narrative, decided to create an official program called Leadership That Transforms. Inspired by his journey, the idea was to develop internal leaders based on the same principles he had championed throughout his path. The media continued publishing articles about the company's transformation. Lectures, interviews, and success cases frequently included his name. But despite the fame and recognition, he remained the same as always: simple, focused, attentive to each employee, and always willing to listen before speaking. One late afternoon, while walking through the company corridors, he stopped for a moment in front of a room where new interns were receiving training. He observed, with a discreet smile, the excitement in the eyes of those young people who were starting exactly where he had begun. And for a brief moment, he felt immense pride in realizing that, in some way, he was paving the way for others to believe in their own dreams too. From the top of his new position, he knew many challenges still lay ahead, that new problems would arise and that responsibilities would only increase. But now, with experience, wisdom, and everyone's respect, he felt ready to face any situation. His story became an example not only within the company, but also beyond. Business schools, universities, and coaching firms used his journey as a case study. Many young professionals memorized phrases he had said in lectures, using them as mottos in their own careers. That night, as he arrived in his office, he looked out the window and saw the city lights beginning to shine. He picked up his phone, opened a notepad app, and started writing ideas for the company's next cycle of improvements. He knew that success wasn't a destination, but a continuous journey. And if you followed this story until now, remember something very important. Maybe today you're in the position of a simple intern, someone no one notices, someone who works in silence. But never underestimate the power within you. Never let discouragement steal your purpose. Those who plant dedication reap recognition. If you enjoyed this story and believe it can inspire more people, like the video, share it with your friends, and leave your comment below telling us your opinion. And if you want to keep receiving content like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your journey can also have an incredible ending, or better yet, a new beginning.